Mansi Datta, the Chief Client Officer and Head North and East, Wavemaker India, Rajiv Gopinath, Chief Client Officer, Starcom, Vishal Chinchakar, CEO, Madison Digital and Madison Media Ultra, and Vaishali Verma, CEO, Initiative India. Well, your time and efforts have helped us get through all of this. Well, we'd like to once again thank our sponsors, Voot and gifting partner, Welcome, a curator of everything healthy, food and snacking. And finally, a big thank you to all our dear readers and viewers. Nothing at all would have been possible without all of you. Before we begin the knowledge sharing sessions, I'd like to highlight that you can also catch us on the live stream on Social Samosa's Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn handles. You can also share with us your questions in the comments and tweet them to us at @Social Samosa with the hashtag IBMP 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I would now like to invite on stage Hitesh Rajwani, founder and CEO Social Samosa on the stage. With this, Hitesh, the stage and screen is all yours. Hello, Hitesh. Welcome. Over to you.
Thank you, Avna. Thank you for the warm welcome. And welcome everyone else to Social Samosa and Voot presents India's best marketers and planners. So it's an honor for us to host the first session for the day, the keynote session for the day with Mr. Ashish Bhasin. Like Bhavna introduced him, he's the chairman India at Dentsu and CEO APAC at Dentsu International. Ashish Bhasin has been in the industry for more than 3 decades now, and he's led the chapter of growth for advertising and marketing in India. Dentsu as an organization has grown from a 50-member team to a 3,500-member team under his leadership. So Ashish, it's an honor to have you on board as the jury chair, as well as the first session for IBMP Summit today.
So we'd request the team to kindly have Mr. Ashish Bhasin now joining us. Hello and welcome, Mr. Bhasin. Over to you, Hitesh and Ashish.
Hi, Bhavna. Hi, Hitesh. Happy to be here.
Pleasure. Over to you, gentlemen.
So how are you doing, sir?
Well as one can in times like these, always staying positive.
Great. So we'll quickly jump onto the chat because I know that you also have a hard stop and we've delayed it by like about 5 minutes. So my first question to you, sir, is how has the pandemic shaped the state of advertising and marketing in the last 15 months? And like if you could give us like a report card of sorts from a brand perspective and even from an agency perspective, how have things been for advertising and marketing at large?
Well, it actually went through different phases. So last year in March, when the lockdowns were imposed, I think it's fair to say that I think everybody was caught unawares, because certainly for the last few generations, perhaps managers had never seen such disruption, which was so universal and so global. And the lockdown, particularly in India, was pretty severe. So obviously that impacted advertising because it impacted the sales of brands. So other than things like necessity goods or FMCGs, etc., most of the brands, their stores weren't open, so there was no need to advertise there, and so on and so forth. So the first phase, I think, for all businesses, whether agencies or clients, was to get to grips with what the situation was, prepare for where you were going, look for safety, and quell the anxiety which was there in people. So, for example, I had never in my life worked from home in 33 years. You've already established my age by saying that, but I'd worked for 33 years, but I hadn't worked from home even a single day. And I couldn't have imagined. So, for example, in APAC, I've got almost 14,000 people. I couldn't have imagined that we would come to a day where all 14,000 people would just be working from home. And that's the phase we went to, and everybody was adapting to that. And I think for all organizations, the unsung heroes in that phase were the IT guys, because we underestimate what a task it is to get hundreds of thousands of people to be working from home. And today, nearly 80-90% of the work does get done. Then when gradually things started, so businesses, the revenues dried up, both for brands and for agencies on that. And after some time, when people realized that, look, this is not a short-term thing, then they had to readjust their cost structures. So, for example, a lot of offices which were lying empty, real estate costs, in some cases where there was redundancies, and so on and so forth. So, a lot of cost measures were taken. Gradually, the opening up started happening, and I think towards the festive season of last year, we kind of started assuming that life is now back to normal and Corona is gone and so on. And actually, the festive season was quite good, because if you remember, we had IPL last year, and the bounce back was starting to happen and stuff. Until the beginning of this year, beginning of 2021, around February, where again the second wave started coming in. I think this time around people were a little better prepared, but the anxiety levels were very high because of the sheer severity of the wave. I mean, your friends, your colleagues, or relatives were, falling ill, dying. Hospital rooms weren't available. Oxygen was shortage. So a lot of organizations were focusing on, again, safety, but more importantly, how do you get resources available to your teams and to your people and stuff. Fortunately, once the peak was over, I think things have started getting better. I don't believe there's a V-shaped recovery, or that one day a switch is on or off and then everything comes back. But I think what we are seeing is that every week is better than the previous week. Every month is better than the previous month. So gradually things are coming back. The monsoon looks good, and that's really important for India. We underestimate its importance, actually, because rural demand depends upon that. The festive season is coming shortly. Again, a part of IPL is going to happen, and more cricket is going to happen in this season. Again, there is pent up demand. So all signs are that we should have a good festive season. And I'm hopeful that, unless there's a third wave or something unforeseen that happens, that after the festive season, we'll start coming back more towards normality. Of course, there were trends. So, for example, there's no doubt that digital did better than most other media. And also, in terms of talent attrition, once the opening up happened, I think clients and agencies everywhere started finding a bit of pressure on talent, because everybody started reassessing their lives. Do I want to work 5 days, 6 days a week for 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours commute for so many this thing, or do I want to do something else? And because the opening up was happening suddenly across industries, and India actually gained, because a lot of our IT and digital companies are a resource center for rest of the world. And because the digital trend was going on so rapidly, the demand for digital talent particularly, but in fact for all talent, has increased substantially on that bit. So I think different phases in this, but more or less this is the kind of a pattern that most organizations have followed. And I am hopeful we are at the cusp of things coming back to normal.
And last year we had this conversation with you, and I remember that you'd given us like when I'd asked you about advice for brands and agencies, you had mentioned that brands should be sensible to sensibilities while they're communicating, and at the same time you had mentioned that agencies should be resilient to change. So you have any more advice to add for brands and agencies, given the last 15 months you've seen it through, and is there more to add to it for both brands and agencies?
I think one common underlying factor which you can see, in fact, across the world, not just in India, is that marketeers, advertising agencies, everybody needs to become a lot more agile. Just because you've been used to doing something in a particular way for the last 20 years doesn't mean that you're going to be able to do it even for the next 20 weeks. Forget about anything else. Also, earlier, we had long lead times to plan. Today, that luxury doesn't exist, not for brands, not for agencies. One day you have a lockdown and all of a sudden everything is shut, and the next day things start opening up, and all of a sudden, if your your production or your marketing isn't geared up, you're going to be caught with your pants down when the tide goes out. So agility is going to be the key word. There is going to be a yo-yo. It is not going to be a one single smooth straight line curve upwards as we were used to in the past many years. There will be ups and downs. The pandemic is not gone. I hope we don't have its severity, but it's certainly still on the horizon on that bit. So you should expect that there will be more uncertainty, more volatility, and therefore the one thing all organizations and individuals also should gear up for is agility. The other bit is you've got to unlearn, because you cannot relearn unless you've unlearned. Because we've been used to doing things in a particular way for 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 years, we feel that's the only way of doing it. The work from home is a good example. We were all used to getting into a train or a bus or a car and coming to office, commuting for 1, 2, 3 hours, 4 hours a day on that. And we thought that was the only way of working. Now we've unlearned that, and we've learned that there are other ways of doing it. And probably when the world reopens, it'll be more of a hybrid structure and maybe more staggered and, all of that. So that's a physical example, but even otherwise, from a business perspective or a mental perspective, you've got to be ready to unlearn and relearn, because we're living in an environment where change is getting accelerated. One thing the COVID has clearly taught us is that the trends were already there. So digital is not a new trend. In India, it was already happening. But to have grandparents on Zoom, it would have taken us 10 years, but it has happened in 10 months. For people to be buying rice, potatoes, and dal on e-commerce and online would have still happened, because it's happening in China, it's happening in other markets, but may have taken 5 or 10 years to get to that stage. It's now forced us to get there in 6 months or 12 months. So that keep looking for trends which are already there. COVID is only accelerating those trends or decelerating some trends. It's not really bringing in absolutely new trends. So be very vigilant on what are the insights and be very agile to catch those insights and adapt and learn according to that bit. I think that's one piece of advice I can give everybody.
Right. And like while on the first question, you had mentioned that digital has grown considerably during the pandemic, and it's obviously so. So I remember that there was one conversation I was having with a FMCG marketer back in 2019 that like for a lot of brands or like the leading clients out there, digital is still a stepchild in their marketing mix. So do you see that notion changing with the pandemic? And I know that this year also Dan had come up with a digital report. So if you could share some insight on how digital is growing, where digital is placed at this point, what is the future you see for digital given the current circumstances?
Look, first of all, you should go back and see whether that marketer still has a job or he doesn't have a job, if that was his thinking, that it's going to be a stepchild and so on. I think digital is nothing to do with marketing. It is for many years, the marketeers or advertising agencies used to lead consumers. We would do research, we would tell consumers what they should do, create communication, ask them to follow. For the last 5-10 years of my career, I've been feeling that we are actually following the consumers. The consumer has already gone digital. Whether we as marketeers or agencies are agile enough to have seen that or adapted that. Maybe COVID gave us a kick on our backsides and made us do it much faster than that. But some of us have been saying this for a long time, even before COVID, that is the trend that is going to happen. So all the doubting Thomases who thought whether digital is a flash in the pan and whether it'll ever become mainstream, etc. I think in a sense, COVID has accelerated that whole bit, and they've got their answer already on that. I think interestingly, digital is now, so saying digital is like saying advertising or like saying marketing. It's too broad a term, right? So for example, you can see some trends. I mean, see how gaming has increased in the last, if you look at the first 6 months of 2019 versus the first 6 months of 2021. So in a sense, pre-pandemic versus post-pandemic or during pandemic, if you compare that, gaming in India has gone up 1,600 times, right? Now, nobody could have predicted that. Everybody knew that esports is going to come, gaming is moving, but nobody thought it would go up in such a big way. So it's no longer, digital is no longer just search or performance or just banner ads or whatever. It's taking new shapes. E-commerce is taking new shapes. Cooking videos, videos where you learn cooking have gone up 2,300 times pre-COVID to post-COVID, because people are sitting at home, they're trying to cook, they're more involved in it, they want this thing, and so on and so forth. I mean, there are 100 statistics that are available. I think the choice has finally moved to the consumer's hand. The consumer is now going to decide what I want to do, when I want to do, how I want to do, whether I want to go to office or I don't want to go to office. The flexibility and choice has completely moved into the hand of the consumer. And therefore, all marketers and advertising people have to learn to listen a lot more. Our bad habit is in this industry, we learn how to talk a lot, but we don't listen. But we've got to learn to listen to the consumer. Anyone who's not listening to the consumer is going to be left behind. You don't need too much of heavy market research today because it's almost real time. You create a communication or you launch a product. The narrative is no longer in your hand. The narrative has gone into the hands of the consumer. They will decide what they speak about you, about your brand, not what you are going to carefully craft and put out. Right? The memes start coming in, or something goes viral, something doesn't go viral. You get negative bit on things, you get positive bit on the other things. So the power has moved to the hands of the consumer, and marketers and advertisers and advertising agencies have to learn to listen a lot more, learn to be agile, and learn that we are now in an era of real-time marketing. You don't have the luxury of, I'll go back, I'll do a lot of research, I'll sit back, I'll think of something, then I'll come back after 6 months with a response. That luxury, unfortunately, is gone.
And the last 2 years, we've also seen that, say, audio as a medium has been reinvented of sorts. You see a lot of consumption happening beyond music. There is so much podcast consumption that is happening for users across the board. So you think that audio advertising would be reinvented just like radio was sometime, like when you had started your career, radio was very mainstream of sorts, and TV came in. So you think that with audio, brands and marketers would get to explore the same experience that they had with radio back in the day, but with more scale, with more avenues in terms of content? Like, your thoughts on audio advertising and its rise?
Look, audio has been important, but it has never really been mainstream, and I don't see it becoming like the biggest medium or anything. Many mediums are going to gain in importance, and audio will probably be one of it, but even audio is becoming digital. I think the big difference is that everything is going to become interactive. Audio will also have to learn to become a lot more interactive and adaptive to what the consumer wants to do. There are some problems with audio like radio communication, I would say, rather than audio. One of the biggest ones of which is that it's not measurable yet. And as time passes, marketers and agencies will be more and more reluctant to put money behind media where there isn't scientific measurement. So all media that want to grow, I think if outdoor is a good example of that. I think they need to start investing in measurement, investing in research, and I think that holds true for audio. There needs to be a lot more robust industry agreed measurement system for it to become mainstream. Until that time, I don't think it will. Television is going to be important for a long, long time to come, because there's still maybe another 30-40 million homes that you can theoretically still get television into, with more electrification, with prices falling, etc., with content going in. Digital, I believe we've had a huge revolution, but I believe that in the next 3 years, you're going to have something like 200 million to 300 million more digital users coming in. And mind you, they're not going to be coming in from Bombay, Delhi, Calcutta, Madras. They're going to be coming in from tier 3, tier 4 towns. They're going to be coming in from rural areas. And mobile is going to be the enabler for that. And I think the implication of that is that communication will also have to become a lot more regionalized, a lot more localized. That doesn't mean dumbed down, right? Which is a mistake that you make, but it's got to be of a much more local flavor. It's no longer that will you be able to, internet largely has been an English driven medium so far in India. I think that's going to completely change in the next 2 or 3 years. And that's also going to change the flavor of advertising. You cannot sit in South Bombay and South Delhi in air-conditioned offices and create communication in English or Hindi and then hope that it'll, in translation, go to whatever number of languages we have. That's not going to happen. You're going to have to start getting more and more localized in your responses. So as these mediums evolve, those trends are going to become more visible to people. You can already see it in print. I mean, English print suffered more, regional print relatively did better because people want local language news, right? More than that. So I think that's the general trend you're going to see in several media, I feel. But again, measurement will become more important.
Right. And like one of the things that has been talked about very recently is about the whole ASCII guidelines on influencer marketing, on how influencer marketing as a discipline is growing, and as the discipline grows, there has to be some practices which influencers and brands have to follow in terms of disclosures. So where do you see influencer marketing going from your perspective? You think that ASCII steps are in the right direction, and you think brands and creators would adapt to these guidelines as they've been proposed, or you see some more course correction happening in the coming times?
I feel they are a good first step. I'm a big believer in self-regulation like ASCII, because I don't think government does the best job in regulating anything. Otherwise, you'll get into a very controlled censorship kind of a mode, which can be quite arbitrary, etc. So it is much better for the industry to self-regulate itself. And if you don't self-regulate yourself and let there be a jungle law, sooner than later you're going to force the government to get into it to prevent misuse and so on and so forth, and then nobody is going to like it. So I think it's a good step that it is happening. Like all processes, there will be a learning curve. Some things will work better than the other things, and it's an ever-changing. I spoke about agility, that holds true in this. It's an ever-changing landscape. There may be things which today we cannot even imagine, but 2 years later, 5 years later may become very relevant or very important, or loopholes that people might find. So it has to be a continuous evolution process, and you can't now have static rules and regulations and laws. In India, we were governed by laws made in 1860s and 1910 and so on and so forth, and that was okay for 100 years. Today, every 5 years, the landscape is totally changing. So while the principles can be agreed, but laws and rules and regulations will also have to evolve with the changing consumer, changing technology and stuff. So I do feel it's a step in the right direction. I think it's in some ways good, because a lot of misuse that started happening, fake followers or wrong practices, etc. In some ways, it's a bit unfair, because you've got to see unfair. I wouldn't say unfair. It's a bit hard for influencers, because I believe there is a level to which they can take responsibility on that. I mean, you've got to do your basic due diligence, but an influencer is not a scientific expert or a doctor or a or a legal expert to know everything about every product. So I think there has to be that sense of balance found there. But certainly, by definition, influencers have followers. If you have followers, you have an influence, which is why you're an influencer. And if you have that influence, you also have the responsibility to make sure that you are responsibly using that influence. And therefore, I do feel it's the first right step, but I think it will need a lot of modification and change as we go along and as new things emerge.
I think we'll take two more questions and then we can wrap up. So one question is from the comment section, and again, I think it's very relevant given the current times. It's around how do you see moment marketing, like the whole controversy that is going on around brands leveraging on sports celebrities or Olympic winners while like using their name, image in their communication while not investing or sponsoring those athletes in their capacity. So, and that has been like the talk of the town, at least for the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks now. So you think moment marketing is again here to stay, or you think it's something which is just another trend or a fad which will die down?
I think moment marketing is very much here to stay. And that, when I say real-time marketing, it implies moment marketing. I think the best global example of it, when the world first recognized it, was when Oreo, when the lights went out in Super Bowl and Oreo did that bit of
dunk in the dark,
dunking the thing. That was when the world first woke up to it, in a sense that it can be used. So I think agile marketing and moment marketing, or whatever you're calling it, is not only here to stay, it's going to be the need of the hour, because that comes with the agility. The consumer doesn't want 50-year-olds. They want you to, relate with immediate. Brands have been doing it very successfully. I mean, Amul has been doing moment marketing in that sense very effectively for, 50 years or how many ever years. They built the brand, in fact, on that. What cannot happen is that you cannot unfairly use somebody's pictures or visuals or name or whatever without their permission or without due credit or a commercial deal with them. I mean, that's a bit unfair, I think. And if that is not self-regulated, then even that will get regulated, because and I'm glad one of the sports women has sent legal notices. I read in the newspaper. I think that's a very good thing, because people must realize that you can't that's the asset. That is somebody else's asset. You can't decide to use my face and my voice and my thing without asking my permission in the way that you want to use it, right? So I think it's only fair that there is that certain amount of due credit given to the right people. But agile marketing or moment marketing or real-time marketing or whatever word you want to give it is going to become the order of the day, not just with celebrities or sports people, but with just the speed of response of communication.
Right. So one last question, and this is from like I've seen some in comments as well, and then something which I've also observed personally, that last 15 months we've been working a lot more than we would have worked before, and like work from home in general is taking a toll on people, and there have been so many mental health issues people are facing. So as a professional who spent like almost 35 years in the industry, what is your advice for people to avoid burnout, and what are the triggers people like working professionals should identify uh, to initiate a good work-life balance for themselves? Because you've seen this through and through the last 3 decades. You've seen it, and you manage such a large network of agencies. So what is your advice for people who might be going through burnouts, for people who would want to initiate work-life balance? Yeah, we could then wrap up the session.
First of all, let me caveat it by saying that I'm the worst example of this, and I have actually no right to be commenting upon this because I'm myself the worst offender on this. I'm poor. I have been poor most of my working life on work-life balance, and I'm not proud of that. It's just the way I was built and the way I ran my life all this while. So I'm not the best example to talk about it, but however, you learn with experience, right? So one thing I'll tell you just as a slight aside is that this burnout business is, I'm not talking about physical burnout, I'm talking about mental burnout. I think it's a lot related to passion. For example, people talk about jokes about Monday morning blues and so on. I love Monday mornings. I'm just waiting to get into office on a Monday morning in the days when you used to go to office, or even now when you're starting, because I've thought of 50 things over the weekend which I want to go and tell this, or go and do this, go and do it. Why don't we do this? Why don't we look at that, etc. And you know what's the reason for that? Because I love my work. The moment you love your work and you're passionate about it and you're deeply involved in it, the line kind of blurs. The passion drives you and carries you around. Look, in advertising, you have to be very resilient. People ask you what is the biggest success factor in advertising, and generally they expect an answer. You should be creative, or you should be this. I personally feel it's none of that. I think it is your ability to withstand stress, because you can actually die in this profession. It's a service industry. It is deadline oriented. It is high pressure, high stress most of the time. Like you said, there are odd working hours because of the pressures that it brings you. Unless you don't enjoy your work, and unless you're not passionate about it, and it'll become stress for you. And if it becomes stress, sooner than later, it will show on you in some way or the other. So I think the first thing to do is to really only do what you're passionate about. If there's some part of your work which you're not liking, and you feel that's not for you, don't do it. Just change your line and get to something which you are enjoying, because that in itself makes the single biggest difference, right? The other bit, particularly now in these times when you're homebound, because of lockdown, you may be in, and there's a lot of pressure, very long working. For example, I'm working on Singapore time. I have Australia on one end, and my boss, our global CEO, sits in USA on the other end. So the day tends to be very long. I think each person needs to build in for himself or herself a little bit of me time, a little bit of exercise, a little bit of and these are frankly all the things I never did, and I was the worst example, and I think I suffered because of it. And I would urge everybody to make sure these are all very simple things. Make sure that you are taking a little bit of your own time, you're devoting time to your health, to your exercise, or whatever your hobbies that you have. Learn to switch off. For me, that's the hardest thing. I can't switch off, so I'm trying to train myself to switch off on that. But more importantly, learn to enjoy your job. If there is something in your job which is giving you tension, then there's a problem. Which is continuously, I mean, there'll always be some tension which is continuously causing you stress, then there's a problem with that thing. Try to eliminate it. And if you can't eliminate it, move to some other part of the business which you enjoy a lot more. So I would say, first of all, do what you enjoy and then do it with full passion. You'll never feel burnt out or stressed. You'll, in fact, feel that, can I go for it again and can I do some more on that? And I think that positive attitude makes a very big difference on mental health. Always be positive. Tomorrow is going to be better than yesterday. There will always be light at the end of the tunnel. And if you have confidence in yourself and into your product or your agency or whatever that you're representing, you must be 100% convinced that you're going to come out stronger. What doesn't kill you only makes you stronger.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot for that candor and honesty. I think there is a lot to learn from this last piece, because a lot of people have been stuck in this loop for quite some time, and I'm sure they'll get some clarity out of it. Thanks a lot for sparing our time for this session. It's always a pleasure to chat with you, and we can't get enough of that. Probably sometime later we'll have another part of this conversation.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure. Thank you, Hitesh.
So thank you so much. With this, ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Bhasin. What an incredible talk, and he always definitely seems to inspire. So with this, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to head towards our next session. But before that, I'd like to thank our title sponsor, Voot, and gifting partner, Well Curve, a curator of everything healthy, food and snacking. Well, ladies and gentlemen, now it is time for me to invite on stage for our next session, a panel discussion on SPENCE and Trends, Decoding Festive Season 2021 from an industry lens. We have joining us on the screen, Navonil Chatterjee, Joint President and CSO at Rediffusion, Pankaj Jain, Partner Director, Native India, and SEA, HTT Pool Managing Director, HTT Pool India, Chintan Soni, Vice President, Digital Products, Performance at Madison, and Saloni Surti, Editor, Social Samosa and Media Samosa, who will be moderating this session. Well, with this, I'd now like to humbly welcome all our eminent panelists, along with Saloni, to moderate it forth in this exciting panel coming up next. Thank you all for joining us and being a part of this discussion. A very warm welcome, Pankaj. A very warm welcome, Chintan.
Hi, Bhavna. Thank you so much for having us here.
Pleasure. A very warm welcome.
Thank you, Bhavna. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So good. Everyone's, greeting each other on the screen. So, you can feel the warmth. Great to see the same community joining us. We just like Saloni now to also join us, who will be moderating it on behalf of Social Samosa and Media Samosa.
Hey, Saloni.
Hi, guys. How are you?
Hi, Saloni.
Good, Saloni.
Great. So first, I think I'll just start off with thanking you all for being here today and spending time and sharing interesting insights with us. So I'm really not going to waste a lot of time, and I'll just get directly into the conversation, right? So the whole idea of this panel is sort of to set a context in terms of what brands and agencies can expect, from the upcoming festive season. Right. So the first question that I like to ask is more about what's happening right now. So last year, we saw festive season marked quite a point of revival, right? But the second wave was way more stronger, in a lot of senses, and it impacted people on a lot of levels, including our industry. So do you think that has somewhere impacted the spends or, the sentiments that our brands and agencies have for the upcoming festive season? Navonil, if we can start with you.
Okay, yeah, okay. That's a good question. Actually, if you look at some of the predictions, I think there is a Fitch report which is saying that consumer spending, the total consumer spending in 2021 will grow by 9.1%, while it contracted by 9.3% last year. So already that's consumer spending in normal times. Now comes festive season, you have some other predictions, like some of the categories like durables, even the Amazons of the world and all of that. They are predicting almost in certain categories like electronics and all of that, mobiles, obviously, they're projecting almost 30 to 35% growth in the coming years, and basically in the festive season. Another category which is promoting a growth, and there I don't have just facts and figures, I also have anecdotes, is the fact that the travel trade industry, those guys are actually projecting a 35% growth in uptake, which is going forward again in the festive season. And then before I come to the anecdote, even Woohoo, which is a gift card thing, is planning to send 200 million gift cards for the festive season. So these are the facts. Coming back to the travel thing, I think there are anecdotes, and we were talking to people, and some of us, Wildflower near Shimla is one of the most expensive properties, fully booked out. Yeah, all the premium properties are getting not just booked out, the tariff has hit through the roof. It's like 100% more than what it was. So people are actually looking forward. The whole term, the trend which has become big. You never thought that word will have anything to do with shopping. That word was meant for Hindi movies, which is revenge. It's become revenge shopping now. So people are like, they have a lost time. I mean, I'm right now based out of Calcutta. Calcutta loves food. We all know that. You drive outside some of the restaurants in Park Street and all that. You go to a thing on a Thursday evening. We went. It's all booked out. It's all full. So people are really, really dying to come out. Dying. Of course, the second wave did its damage and all that. But I think with vaccination, there is a little bit of a safety, the feeling of safety at least. Not too much of bad things are being written too much these days, very recently, and that consumer confidence is back. Revenge shopping is back. Predictions are a thing. It will have dulled a little bit, in the last year and when the second wave happened. But I think all the sentiments are, that it will only grow up. But again, people will spend depending on the categories, and also the level of spend. I'm talking about not the people who can afford Wildflower, but if you go down a little, it'll depend. If your spending bracket is 5,000, 7,000, 10,000, 15,000 during the festive season, that proportion will go up. But if generally you spend, more than 1 lakh, 1.5 lakhs, 2 lakhs, that may come down. It's also the volume of spend which will also, and the category of spends which will have an interesting thing to, play out. Yeah, that's my short take on it, I think.
Okay. So, Chintan, probably you could shed light on the same topic, and more so a little more from a digital perspective also. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Saloni, I think, I pretty much agree with what Navonil has said. If you look at SPENCE Trend, of course, I mean, during both the wave 1 and wave 2, at both the time, we have actually seen a dip in the spend, but the moment actually we started relaxing the norms of lockdown and everything, we actually saw double the recovery in terms of the spends. So while certain categories, if you talk about like a service category where actual logistical issues were there to service the final last leg of the delivery, there we definitely saw some sort of dip during the lockdown phase. But the moment actually the lockdowns were relaxed and everything, I think we saw 2x jump. And even like if I look at my own, so we do a quarter-over-quarter spends analysis. So last time when we actually did this analysis, we saw somewhere around 2x the spike in spend. So whatever we have actually lost in during the lull period, we have I think surpassed that thing by almost 10 to 15%. So and more from the consumer spending point of view, recently I think in 15th August, where in Mumbai itself, I stay in Mumbai. In Mumbai, there were like lockdown relaxations were announced. So I thought, why don't we just go out for a dinner, like a family get together? The entire restaurant was completely packed with everyone was just wanted to forget what had happened and wanted to go back in the normal time. So I think from the spends lens, I personally see it is actually going to be 2x than what we have actually lost in the lull period.
Correct. So, Pankaj, we taking cues from what Navonil and Chintan have said now, and in terms of, if you could also shed a little bit light in terms of what we are seeing on the brands front, or if there are any bigger spenders, in addition to the existing question of of your opinion on the sentiment and spends.
Sure. See, I think as Navonil and Chintan highlighted, the second wave had a lot of impact. Okay, because there was a lot of anger around large multinational brands, especially. They wanted to not be in the media. You don't want to be in the news. You don't want to be seen around because everybody is thinking negative. In those sentiments, brands tend to shy away. But what we also saw was there was a lot of positive conversations happening on Twitter. They were trying to create a positive environment. They were trying to be around with a statement like, if you stay COVID emergency, I could see a lot of brands using this hashtag COVID emergency. If there is a COVID emergency in your family around you, just Buzz will try to help you. So I take it as the Sonu Sood, kind of an impact when everybody wanted to be a helping hand. Okay. Now with this, this brings me to a couple of conversations I had. So there was a very large consumer durable brand we were talking to for a pitch, and their insight was they could see a huge surge in buying in the summers in the last quarter. Okay, and what is interesting is this: a lot of it was organic. Okay, while the same brand is planning to spend in the festive season, but I'm sure the budgets are not as good as 2019 maybe for them. From where we see, as a technology solution provider, we see this is a good time for brands to actually not go out for sales, but for the market share. Because what did the pandemic bring in for them? They brought in a vacuum. In every category, we see there are new players coming up. But because of this vacuum, there's no new player in the market. They're the existing ones. This is a good time for them to spend big. So the mid brands, the mid-market segments, you will see a surge. I could give many examples. We keep talking to brands. I still remember I was talking to an owner of a imitation jewelry company. Usually during festive season, they spend they're able to spend sell about 30,000 pieces, in a quarter. But last year during pandemic, they sold 30,000 pieces in a month. This year they're expecting it to be much bigger. As Navonil rightly pointed out, based on the category, think of all of us. After 2 years, we are going to see the festive season wherein we are going to step out. You would want to buy garment. You would want to buy more than what you would otherwise buy. So people will spend. And the brands who take advantage of it during this period by bringing themselves in the limelight, they are going to be the beneficiary for the market share, if I may put it.
So, like when we see, we clearly see that consumers are, definitely willing to come back out more, right? But then we also see that there has been this drastic change in terms of consumer behavior, actually not even behavior, but consumer understanding, where there is a lot of awareness about essential and non-essential. And especially, festive season is related to this whole joy of spending for a family and indulgence, right? But then also comes this whole thing of being aware of what you're spending. So in this kind of a scenario, where, how do you think brands should approach consumer? Like, what kind of tactics do you think work well? Anyone of you could take it.
Sure. See, I think more than the tactics. So so this is a very good point you raise. This brings us to the need and the want thing. All right. No matter how smart we become, but it's always temporary. Marketing will override your need, and you will always drive towards your wants.
Yeah, that's true.
So if you're around in the market, if you have money in the pocket, you want to spend. All right. And especially with the globalization, we see the technology, intelligence, and everything. You are going to be bombarded with ads, and everywhere you go. Personalization. I think in one of the discussions with Ashish in the previous conversation, there was a mention about influence, how influencer marketing is creating an impact. Okay, the influencer marketing industry in itself in India is bigger than the native ad networks put together, close to 200 million. But what COVID did was they ensured that they focus more on personalization. So that is what is going to happen. People are going to spend. Okay, it's important for brands to be present, and a lot of smart brands are taking that. As Chintan also rightly mentioned, you will see an upsurge in the spends for sure, but in specific categories.
Yeah, I agree with Pankaj. So if you look at let's say a pre-phase versus a post-phase, you will see certain categories actually drying up. But you at the same time, like I mentioned, a product category where there are, or a service category where there are logistical issue, you tend to see them drying up. But at the same time, the categories which is like pretty much online to online, there you actually see upsurge, and they have somewhat compensated the kind of loss that used to happen in the AdX due to the like people not spending during that lull period. So I think mota, if you look at it, it is going to be definitely the upsurge that you are going to look at. Second is that how you are creating that connected experience. Specifically, if your brand is online, and if there is a complete journey that you can optimize, and you can actually let's say at the right time you can give a right a stimulus for doing a purchase, be it in form of a discount or be it in form of some sort of a referral bonus or something, whatever that you come across. Like for example, in securities as an industry, I come across this referral program where you basically, if you refer a person, you get some sort of a brokerage waiver. They've just announced it at the time of 15th August, which is the start of the festive season. So I think if you give a right stimulus at the right time, it is definitely going to boost the sentiment, and can bring consumer back on the track.
Yeah, if I can add to it, the whole definition of lean season, off season, season is going to change. I think that's very important. Now lockdown is the lean season. If there is a lockdown, that's the lean season. And the moment the lockdown opens, then you go back with a vengeance. And that's it may have been traditionally off season, but it becomes season for you to step out and do that. I mean, that's what is happening. So the regular bucketing and definition of this is season, this is off season, people are actually planning like that that you can't just keep your money held up. Oh, that will happen, festive is coming. What happens if festive becomes a lockdown? So at least when people are going out to buy, at least, of course there is an e-commerce element, but at least we all know the importance of touch is a phenomenal thing, and that's the one sense which we have lost out on from the lockdown. And the moment we get it back, we are grabbing it. And I don't mean touching one another and shaking hands, but when you're going out to buy and shop and all that sense of touch is very important. So that definition of season, off season, lean period, all of that is, and it is pragmatic not to wait for the best season, because you're not Nostradamus. You don't know what will happen. So at least from the virus point of view, you don't know. So it makes sense that you spend when the consumers actually have the means to go out and buy you. So it's also the sense of pragmatism which will drive marketing at one level. I think that's a very important point, to keep in mind, that the whole definition of season, off season. But having come back to you, like you said, indulgence versus that, the kind of category which you mentioned, very, very important, because it's not going to happen across categories. When the lockdown first happened, Parley, which is one of our brands, just took off because groceries took off, because that's something you're staying at home. You'll always want something to add. Maybe those are the occasions where if you're an officer and outside, you would have eaten something or consumed something else. But here it was all at home. So you had to consume something and spend time and do time pass or whatever, and kept yourself going. So groceries and all of that took off at that point of time. Now that stuffed inside the homes, that is why travel is taking off, because you want the biggest sentiment, the biggest trend which is happening is, and I would probably take credit for a term. I had written an article on that, a term which, if I may say, I coined. Of course, others may have used it, but I thought of it fresh. I can tell you, we asked for it to kind of try to get a registration on that word. The term is called postalgia. Nostalgia is something where you long for the past. Postalgia is something where you long for something in the future, which actually is nothing but our recent past. If you look at that, all brands, everything who are coming back to advertising, a lot of brands actually tapping to the nostalgia. The Pepsi, the mess we miss ad, it's a global ad, was all talking about, when do we come back and go and cheer for our teams in the stadium? When do we go to that bowling alley and all of that? So all of those things, nostalgia is going to drive a lot of advertising, brand communication, that trend. And nostalgia is what we are all suffering from, all of us in this panel. 1.5 years back, it seems like a long time now, we were all used to doing certain things. Now we're looking forward to doing those same things again. It's in the future, and that's why it's post and therefore postalgia. Yeah. So I think postalgia is going to drive a lot of this spending. The big reason for that is you again want to do those things which you have lost out on. Making up on lost time is what's happening, and spending will happen. But at the same time, jobs are going, salaries are getting cut. All those realities are also there. Depending on which side of the spectrum, where do you fall, you're going to be a little guarded in it. And if you of course have the money, then you can't go abroad. So go to the best place in India and spend whatever you can do that. You know, we are seeing it in another category in marriages. Marriages, there is a limit of 50 people. So you cannot spend money on the extravagant food and all that. But that money is getting saved. So you can spend it on the jewelry, on the lehenga. The lehenga, which was maybe 15 lakhs or 10 lakhs, can become 20 or 25 lakhs, you know, when you're shopping for that. These are the adjustments which are happening in the mind, the mental maths which is going on. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's for my.
I love the term. I have to say that it is a very innovative way of describing what's happening right now. Right. So, and speaking about postalgia, we also see, and this was something we had seen last year also, with the revival, with the unlock happening, there were a lot of brands that started, creating festive campaigns. And we are anticipating a good number of campaigns this year as well, right? And the general theme that we saw last year to a great extent was, paid forward, the joy of giving back and stuff like that. And understandably so, because of everything that's happening in the current situation, it makes sense, right? But what happens is it creates some really good narratives, but the brand recall, somewhere that tends to get lost, because there used to be a lot of instances even amongst us, and we deal with campaigns day in and day out. We write about them. There used to be like, oh, there was a grandma, there was a cup of tea, there was a day. We remember the story, but the person couldn't remember the brand. So how do you think brands can, sort of stand out in the clutter when common themes emerge? And B, how do you think that campaign can be translated into a real effect on ground, right? Because we have a cause, but is the cause really being worked for on the ground level? If we could start with you, Chintan.
Sorry, you asked.
Yeah, I think, Saloni, your voice actually went like feeble in between. So if you can just repeat the last.
Okay, am I audible now?
Yeah, Jen, if you can just come closer to the mic. That's.
Yeah. This is okay. So basically, the question is, we saw a lot of common themes last year, right? And it was the joy of giving and paying it forward, right? But somewhere the brand recall, it tends to get lost, where the consumers remember the story, but they don't necessarily remember which brand created that campaign. So when such common themes emerge, how do you suggest brands and agencies can stand out? One, and two, how do you think they can create that change and translate it into on a ground level? How can they actually pay it forward?
Okay, so I think I can share some of my bits on this. So see, I think this year brand needs to be more sentimental. It should not come across as the only thing of joy of giving or paid forward kind of a thing. But I think they need to be more sentimental because if you actually see this second wave, it has actually hit us very hard. Like people have lost their near and dear ones, and it's a very sentimental thing. So if we can actually do something which touches the sentiment, I think it actually helps brand get that uplift. And I'll share one of the campaign that we have done in hair oil brand, which was actually done last year in Onam. So in South they celebrate this festive called Onam very closely. So what they've done is that in that entire campaign, what we did is that we actually designed the campaign around design your own puklam, which is like a rangoli kind of thing that we do in Diwali. And we said that, right, thank you nurses, basically show your support towards the entire community of nurses who have been giving unconditional support during this tough time. So, and then we actually created some sort of like a cohort to make sure that those pictures that we get from consumers are then visible to this set of cohorts of the nurses that we have created. And it has actually, if you look at like the submission part, like when we look at say conversion rate kind of a metric saying that a number of people visiting your asset and submitting their entries. We actually saw some 2.5x growth in that, and the only reason is that because there was a sentiment and which was attached to it. There was a cost which was attached to it, and of course the time was right actually. So I think if you basically connect the dots across these three segments or 3 points, I think you can really make sure that your brand actually stands out and not just the story or not just the campaign.
Yes. Pankaj, if you could add to it.
Sure. So I think one of the there are going to be a few things that we are up to in the coming festive season. You will see a lot more responsible content pieces coming out. Okay, I'll give you an example. In 2008, we saw the first kind of slowdown in the economy. And I was sitting with the CEO of the company and asked, he was a very big name in the financial segment, and asked him, sir, how much time will this slowdown be around? He said, at least 6 months. I said, after that, people will get used to it. So we have, I believe we have seen the worst of the COVID, because we have seen the problems with regards to hospitals, with regards to oxygen. Now, we all want to find ways to bring joy in our lives, and this is what the brands would be doing a lot. You will see masks in ads. You'll see kind of social distancing. That's a subtle way of reminding people of the social distancing and COVID is still around. But you will see a lot of empathy in the communication. You will see a lot of responsibility. So that's one big change I believe we'll see. Okay, and positivity. For sure, because that's even the government would want brands to come up with positive sentiments, because that's the best way, to change the mind. It's all about the mindset, and brands are going to play a very big role. More than the brands, I would say the agencies are going to play a very big role, because they design these things for the brands. So that's my take. Over to you.
Yeah, if I can add, finally. You talked about this paid forward and good. I sometimes wonder, we live in the Kali Yuga, and that's all kind of evil, all kind of bad things supposed to happen, and it's always happening all around us. But somehow when it comes to marketing and advertising, we've all become goody two-shoes. The brands have lost their mischief, they've lost their wickedness. If you know what a Burger King still does and gets away with McDonald's, I mean, that's the kind of stuff which at least interests me as much. If you do that, nobody forgets that that's Burger King taking McDonald's as. Nobody forgets that. But if you look about festive ads and you think about, main to kuch dekha tha, there's somebody in a sweet shop, a long film, but I've forgotten that it's a Facebook film. Like you exactly said. So one is, of course, brands are about a proposition. Brands are about owning something. So long as they keep doing that, and Volvo for 40 years have been saying safety, 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 safety. The next time they do an ad on safety and you see it, chances are you'll remember, wo usi pe baat kar raha hai. And so long as you stay true to your brand essence and core and do advertising on that, that's great. But nowadays, everybody wants to be in the content space. Everybody wants their brand. And we get briefs from clients, let me tell you, that can we do something which is emotional, which can get spread, which will be viral and all of that. And in that chakkar mein, if I may say, whether you're the brand, who's the brand, everybody will forget, because there for a change, sometimes at least clients don't ask, oh, what's my unique selling proposition? Thankfully, at least on that part, they don't ask. So, and therefore, you take a bit of, you're generally in the generic space, if you know what I'm trying to say. And then you get away and then you land up in that place which you exactly said. Ad तो बहुत अच्छा लगा, किसका ad याद नहीं है, वो Cadbury हो सकता है, Amazon हो सकता है, Facebook हो सकता है, anybody, because anyway everybody is doing on that same theme for that same day marketing, moment marketing has become big. So everybody will have a take on Mother's Day, Father's Day, Raksha Bandhan and all of that. So all the more reason for that clutter and all the more reason for that confusion. So that's what is happening. But my little request, my little yearning is, boss, I mean, one is stay true to your brand and do that. Second is, forget all this goodness. I mean, that's fine. Be naughty, be mischievous, take panga with somebody else and do that. We also like those things, right? And we forward those things also. Memes and all, we also forward those things. So crack a joke, crack a nice joke. I mean, Do all that. So I'm saying this is not the only way. Festive season doesn't mean only emotional and heart tugging will make me feel good. Festive is also the time to enjoy, have a good time. So make me have a good time, and let ads and brands try and make that effort to make me have a good time.
That makes a lot of sense. On that note, first I'd like to take a few questions that we've been receiving on our different platforms. So I think two questions really stand out for me, and I'll take those first. I am audible, right? I have to confirm.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, so the first question is that we are also expecting a revival of IPL, and there are a few other big ticket events coming up. That combined with festive season, do you think what kind of ad spend movements are you expecting?
See, it's actually booster dose. If you ask me, we are across the set of clients that we manage, we are seeing 2x the jump in terms of the briefs that we get from clients in terms of activating their campaign during festive time, and at the same time there is all the sports events are lined up. So we are actually seeing almost 2x the growth in requirements and the briefs that we get in clients. So definitely opportunity to leverage on, and the screen time is going to definitely go up to do this. Yeah.
Yeah, Maruti's budget, in Q1 for this year was 110 crores or something, whatever it is. I think it was 110 crores. They are planning a 3x spend in Q2. So I mean, yeah, that's the fact. That's the figure.
That's true.
Yeah, even smaller brands are like, if they can't straight away afford any sort of a big associate sponsor or title sponsor, they still want to go ahead and make sure that at least they are there in that spot level buy kind of a thing. So they also don't want to miss out this opportunity, because we know that entire time spent on media is going to go up, the frequency of browsing is going to go up. So they are going to see, they know this metrics are going to go up, and they are investing behind that.
Pankaj, if you could add on this.
Yeah, see, actually, you rightly said this is going to be a very unique combination this year. You have festive, you have IPL, you have T20 World Cup, and the people coming out after 1.5 years, all put together. So yes, there's going to be a lot of spends, and
the result is the third wave. I'm just joking. Sorry, I don't.
Yeah. Video spends are going to see a huge surge. That's one thing we could say. Okay, I would not be surprised if 2021 numbers are going to surpass all the predictions everybody made in 2019 for the way digital industry is going to evolve, because it's now mainstream. It's no more the second fiddle or third. It's mainstream. Every CMO has a digital budget. To come back. Video budgets going up means content, focus on content, as Navonil rightly said, is going to be more. And I completely agree. You have to be naughty. You need to be innovative. You have to be different. Okay, we'll see that. And it's going to spread. Even the spends used to be very conceived to a select few platforms. Advertisers are now becoming smarter. They are not going after publishers, they're going after audiences. That's another big change we will see. So we could see networks and programmatic also taking a front seat, most likely, rather than individual publishers. Video spends going high, and engagement levels also going high. So social platforms could also start playing much bigger role than earlier. These are some of the items I could think of.
Yeah, if I can just add here, like if you need to know your KPIs very well, and if you know the KPIs that you're chasing, then you can do a lot of A/B testing across all the communications that you're running, and you would actually find out. So we do this with pretty much like all the clients that we manage. Is that you have at least 3 different copies. One would talk on the functional aspect, second would talk on, let's say, safety aspect, third would talk on, let's say, delivery aspect, and then we have some key lead indicators in between, saying that what is actually influencing that key lead indicator, and then we try to basically then do a more skew towards the high performing communication. So I think one is that you need to select the right program and right genre for which fits your brand, and secondly, you need to be agile to change the communication and change the creative accordingly. I think that makes more sense.
Great. Great. So another question that in the comments, and I've seen it multiple times, I'm going to club into one, summarize 2-3 questions into one. So it is more on the lines of how we've seen this huge spike and sudden craze around live audio. So that includes our clubhouses and Twitter spaces. Spotify has something of their own, and we've also seen this whole spike in podcast. So where does this audio and live audio genre fit in festive marketing? How, if any tips or trends that you could highlight? Could we start with Navonil?
No, 1 second. This one, you please start with somebody else.
See, Saloni, I think
I lost out on your question a little bit, if you don't mind. Just sorry about that. Maybe somebody can still answer, but I just want to hear the question once more. Sorry about that.
So the question is, where do all these live audio apps and podcasts fit in festive marketing? How can Indian brands and agencies use it? Because there's a whole lot of craze around it, right? So how can they actually use it in a way that it helps?
Okay. Yeah, please.
So I think there are 3 buckets. First is live audio ads. Okay, that's one bucket. This second is podcast. The third is consumption of audio altogether. Live audios, if you're talking about Clubhouse, it's a new thing in the market. Okay, supply is a byproduct of demand. Right now, it's a niche market. It's growing. While it's a very lucrative audience set, very premium audience that are engaging in platforms like Clubhouse, it's still new. I believe for an advertiser to take it more seriously, it's still time. On the content side, you could see engagement the way we saw with Quora when it started off initially. But as a mainstream advertising platform, it is still new, according to from where I see. Second becomes podcast. Podcast is around. We could even now we could see a lot of advertisers. I would term them as smart advertisers, smart marketers, because they identify right segment of podcast content and they're still trying to integrate. They don't want to hard advertise, they want to integrate their content. That continues to run, but that proposition, that budget is so small that is not even, it's a single-digit percentage of the overall advertising spend. Okay, so it may still get unnoticed, it will continue to build and grow because the audience size itself is small. Third is in audio market altogether, the consumption of audio has grown. It's like 3x of what it used to be pre-COVID. All of these publishers, be it Spotify or Ghana, Savan, everybody is seeing a huge surge in the consumption pattern. So advertisers who used to have a kind of a budget for audio, now they are in 2 minds whether they should shift the radio budgets to digital. But more evolved advertisers, marketers are starting to keep a 5 to 10% budget on radio, especially the digital side. So that will continue to grow. For it to become impactful in India, I think it is at least 2-3 years from now is where basis the numbers that we see in terms of spend. It's still a while away.
If I just add to what Pankaj is saying, we at Madison, we always try to drive equivalency between actually, how radio is planned and how can you basically do a planning on the audio streaming platform. And we try to drive some sort of a metrics and math saying that how it will add the incrementality to your overall ROI that you're chasing. So let's say if you're chasing reach and frequency from your radio plan, if you add some, let's say, audio streaming platform over it, how it will drive the incrementality. So again, you need to know you need to know your primary input KPIs well. If you know them well, I think online streaming platform offers you the power of digital targeting. Yeah, you can't really do the target apart from the geographic targeting in a traditional radio ad. You can't do the audience targeting, but with the audio streaming platform, you have that ability to actually target audience basis on your cohorts and everything. So you can actually cut the clutter and make sure that your reach and frequency is actually optimized towards the audience cohort, which is the most important for your brand. So I think it is going to be, and definitely it is growing very quickly, like Pankaj said, almost 3x pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. So I think using online streaming platform with audience definition is going to be the key.
Do I have 2-3 minutes to talk about this?
Yeah, definitely.
3-4 important points.
Yeah.
One is the future is definitely, from screen, it is getting to move into audio. There's no doubt about it. As the phrase which we use, and it's from face down to chin up. That's what it is. Face down is the whole screen engagement. The future is going to be, chin up, because it's all about audio and hearing it. So that's one. Second is, the very important point is that even if you're a product brand, no client across any category can remain as just a product brand. You have to have a service augmentation. You have to have a service mindset. You have to, and I feel audio has a great role to play in that service part, because that is where education, information, all of that can be passed on, apart from tactical stuff like promos and all of that, which can also be driven through audio easily. Third is the important point is the fact that we all talk about multi-screens and how people are into multi-screens. Now, if you're in a multi-screen and video, maybe you're playing games on a video, at least you can still hear. So the importance of that, the multi-screen part of it, and in that context, audio, we know what Khan Khajura did, and we are talking about far evolved audio right now with podcasts and Clubhouse and all of that. But it started that thing, outbound dialing and all that. It's still audio, right? So the importance of education, dissemination, information, and giving that is very important. The service mindset is very important. And last but not the least, why is it very important? Because another thing which, again, I had written an article on is I call it useful is the new youthful. Advertising at one point of time was all about the sizzle. The steak was there somewhere, a little bit. Oh, product, unimportant hai. Show some emotion, cloud it in some emotion, and you will get away with it. That was what advertising. But today, you may be a very emotionally rich brand, but you can have a 1-star product rating. The best brand of today's time is Apple, and they do not do emotional ads in the way we mean emotion. Of course, Apple ads evoke some emotion, but of a very different kind. They're all ads at demos. Shot on iPhone, whatever. I mean, that's the proof. That's the demo. That huge giant outdoor, if it cannot pixelate and that image can come from an iPhone, that's the demo. Why is it useful is the youthful? Because the biggest thing today is what is the most loved thing today is apps. And what are apps? Apps get a job done. Take me from place A to place B. Help me book a travel. Help me order in food. That's what apps get done. And brands have to keep that role and play that role of getting the job done, being useful to consumers. And audio can be a great medium to be useful to consumers.
Yeah, that is actually very true. And actually, Khan Khajura Station was one of the most oldest yet most effective audio marketing case studies. And we'll definitely put out a link to that case study for our readers as well. So on that note, and before we conclude, I have one last question. That is, what is your favorite festive or occasion marketing campaign? It can be Indian, it can be global, and why? We could start with Navonil.
Yeah, I mean, that Facebook ad, apart from the fact that I had forgotten it was Facebook, is a very nice ad. I mean, and itna tamjam, itna kuch karke, it touches your heart. I mean, at a simple level, I like that. But I'll skip that and I'll come to a one which I saw recently for Amazon on Raksha Bandhan. Now, brother and sister, that relationship is a special one. We almost, hopefully, all of us have it, if not a direct sister, through some way. And we all have one special sister. I mean, even if it's not your own sister, we must be having that, and that Amazon ad, and the sign off line that kuch tofa dibbo mein nahi aate, which you've seen that. I'll probably describe it. There's the brother who's come for the Rakhi thing, and the sister is just beating him up with Jite Raho and all that. But it's just fun, little interaction happening. And then there is something she has prepared, some kheer payas or some sweet dish, all that, and he has it, and then he's refusing to give it to the sister. Sister wants to have it and all that. No way. He's not parting with, and he's saying he'll take the whole dabba home. There's no way one drop also he'll give it. And that's when the maid calls the sister, and the sister goes to the kitchen to find out, what has happened. And the maid is saying, "Oh, namak ka dibba kidhar hai?" So instead of sugar, she's put namak in that whole sweet dessert. And that guy is hiding all of that, and he's having spoonfuls of that and pretending that what her sister has prepared is the best thing on earth. That's a wonderful gesture, and that is supposed to touch my people's heart, and it did touch my heart. And I love the thought that and a brand which is all about delivering in dabba, saying that, kuch tofa dabba mein nahi aata. It's almost like MasterCard saying, for everything else, there is, some things money can't buy. At least they accepted that. And for everything else, there is MasterCard. So it reminds me of that. Nice ad, liked it for that reason. Yeah.
Great. Pankaj, if you could share your favorite campaign.
My all-time favorite are the moment ads by Amul. You see these hoardings, the way they tie in a festive or any season with the moment, and they do it so beautifully. If you're driving down Marine Drive and you see an Amul ad, there's nothing can beat them. They're the smartest. I don't know why they are not so very active and digital, but otherwise. See, very difficult otherwise to pinpoint on something. I remember a recent ad by, I think it was OLX, I don't remember, when a policeman comes down, walks into a house to buy a second-hand air conditioner, and it touches multiple chords. One of them being, we presume that the policemen are very corrupt, which is not the case. Even they have festive in the house. How an elderly Indian has a mindset towards a policeman, and they're tying so many elements together with festive. Again, there are many such examples, and you have these guys. They make all these wonderful ads.
Makes sense. Yeah, Chintan, if you could.
Yeah. I think, see, the one I actually remember, I won't be able to call the name out, but it was one of the leading chocolate brand where at the time of, I think, Rakhi, what they said is that, what can be the most intangible asset and gift that we can actually give it to sisters specifically. So we I think, ran this campaign. It was very beautifully done, where we actually gifted like a personalized domain to the sisters. So we asked brothers to actually upload all the pictures and everything, and in the backend engine it would create like a complete website with your domain, with your name into the domain name and everything, and then it was actually sent to sisters. So we call it like let's say Rakhi with whatever chocolate brand name that was there, and that was like one of the greatest hit in my state at Madison.
Okay. Great. So I think this was the set of questions we have. Unfortunately, we are like right on time right now. And I know a few of you have a hard stop at 4:20, so I really won't push it further. But once again, thank you so much for sharing your time and sharing wonderful insights with us. To our readers, I really hope you guys had as much fun as we had, and we've got some amazing insights. We know it is okay to be naughty, right? So on that note, over to you, Bhavna.
I have to say, what a fun session this was. We really definitely got to learn so much from the experience all of you carry. So thank you so much, Chintan, Pankaj, Navonil, for joining us today. And thank you so much, Soni, for moderating it so wonderfully. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, bye-bye.
Thank you. So ladies and gentlemen, definitely the festive season's just around the corner, and this session will immensely be helpful in making those creative and media plans. Well, to all those who've just joined us now, I'd like to share that we're also live on Social Samosa's Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn handles. You can also share your questions with us in the comments section, and also tweet to us at @SocialSamosa with our hashtag IBMP2021. Well, keep those tweets and questions coming. And ladies and gentlemen, now for the final session of the day, it's going to be a fireside chat where I'd now like to invite on stage Chanpreet Arora, Business Head, Voot, AVOD, Viacom 18 Digital Ventures, and Karthik Shankar, Head of Digital Trading, GroupM, as they discuss advertising on digital in the times of subscription. So thank you so much, Chanpreet, for joining us today. A hearty welcome. Thank you for your time. You're looking amazing and radiant.
Thank you.
And Karthik's here. So with this, I leave both of you on the stage. Over to you.
Thanks, Bhavna. Hi, Chanpreet.
Hi. So thanks, Karthik, for joining us here. It's not often that we actually mix the romance and engagement of content and the digital tech in the same forum and talk actually at length about it. So without much ado, let me just dive into what this session is going to be about. So video is not video, is often said. The growth of premium platforms has shown us that during the pandemic, with more than 49% growth in time spent in digital entertainment, thanks to the COVID pandemic, if there's a silver lining. On an average, about 4.6 hours a day is spent by Indian mobile internet consumers on consuming video. And that's the highest in the world, more than China, Mexico, Argentina, and South Korea, the other high data consumption markets. In the last 1 year, Indian consumers have spent 1,669 billion minutes online in 2020, up 32% from the 1,261 billion minutes spent in 2019. And one of the biggest switches that we have seen happen is the rise of a subscription business for the OTT platforms, with 29 million subscribers paying up for about 53 million OTT video subscriptions in 2020, not accounting for the subscription data plans. While this is staggering, if we really put this in context, Karthik, as you and I have been discussing earlier as well, the overall subscription business in India of the 291 billion rupee digital media industry is still going to be a humble 19% at the end of this year. And in the coming 5 to 8 years, we continue to see or foresee that advertising will fund and grow the premium content market. So that really makes our discussion today, which is the state of play for digital advertising on premium subscription platforms, very relevant. Now more than ever, it is critical for us to build a strong advertising ecosystem around premium content platforms that value the quality of content and users across the platforms that provide a very strong, loyal engagement play, unlike UGC. So Karthik, it's a pleasure to have you here. Let me just dive into my first question to you. OTT has made leaps in subscription business on the back of sports and premium entertainment. How does advertising trend in the age of subscription today? Can pure play subscription play even exist?
It's okay. Thanks for the data points. I think that was really staggering, right? And we as Indians have moved past and we have evolved. And the way I see it is, I would want to lean in from the legacy business that has always been prevalent, where when you go out buy a newspaper, you actually purchase, you pay 3 rupees,
Yes.
5 rupees, and you still see ads, right?
Yes.
The same holds good for your traditional TV subscription and content, right? So you go out, you pay your MSO, right? Take a cable or a DTH subscription, yet watch advertising on the content. It's the same premium broadcast quality content that's coming back onto the platform that a user wants to watch, right? So today, the way I look at it, right, this model has not changed, right? There's always a cost to revenue ratio that has been present, and at any given point in time, subscription may never be able to bridge that gap, right?
Yes.
Getting that as the fundamental basic, obviously ads will have a significant play even in the subscription base, right? So today, the notion is set that just because I pay anywhere between 200 to 1,500 doesn't mean that I'll not be getting to serve ads. I'm not sure whether if that is the right way to go take it to the market for the users. Users will obviously adopt, and the way I would look at it is, for content platforms, for platforms who are going to be there, who's actually catering to producing good quality content, the ARPU makes a lot of sense. Advertising will be a significant part of building that ARPU or moving that piece onto that ARPU. And I see in the coming years that advertising will be a part of the paid ecosystem as well. But obviously, it has started with sports. and it'll also continue into the other content that is going to be available. One of the things that I also wanted to kind of bring, since we talked about data points, that from if you look at subscription as a category, you look at it at three basic levels, right? One is at news.
Yes.
News as an entire portfolio. Then you have the OTT, which will have audio platforms as well as video OTT platforms like yours, as well as the commerce, right? What we've been able to see is the subscription on the news per se is anywhere between sub 5%, on OTT being at large put together at around 15%, and then commerce somewhere higher up there. And in all trends, you see that advertising is being part of it. So the answer to you is, though there is subscription being built in, it is to cover the cost for the platforms, and advertising will continue to play a lead role. And is subscription, can it actually exist as a pure play? I doubt. We'll see how market really responds to that. Unless there is deep investments for years along, I don't see that really happening.
Yeah, no, I agree. Thanks for sharing your views candidly. And I have to accept that, with Voot as well, we've taken a leap of faith, and as an industry first, with the launch of Big Boss OTT, our biggest reality show, we have ventured in with advertising on our live stream. And this is the first time outside of sports we're seeing and experimenting with advertising. But we are taking baby steps, and we're being very cautious. And this brings me to a key question of two reasons why we are being very cautious. A, the expectation settings of a paid subscriber user is still an evolving ecosystem. We are used to paying, like you said, for subscription in newspapers and even for premium entertainment on TV and watching ads. But what should be that ideal ecosystem behind the paywall is the big question mark. And for us as premium content creators and platform owners, our biggest problem with the current advertising ecosystem is the lack of differentiation between premium content and UGC, and a profile versus a authenticated first party user led platform. So how do you see this ecosystem growing, and how do you foresee a strong partnership coming about with the premium platforms for subscribers behind the paywall?
Yeah, so I mean that's ideally the next question onto that, right? So how do we look at advertising? There are two ways to it. One is the content itself that gets branded,
yes,
right? And there is a lot of plugs that go along with that that has been there traditionally. The other way to look at it is also being more relevant and being more in the clubbing in your ad tech, right? Where programmatic can actually come in, deliver more relevant advertising. So I think it's a duality where you have both the branded content, which is going to be plugged in, brand, subtly being nudged onto it, being present. Also, at a layer, I think this is another thought we discussed, right? So you have different layers of subscriptions coming in, right? Where
yes,
people still get served better quality ads, more contextual ads, which they are able to sit back and take in, and yet have the cost being covered at your for the kind of quality content that are getting produced. So absolutely, these two models too will continue to exist the way I see it. And then obviously programmatic will be a lot more in terms of adding scale back to you and platforms.
Yes, so I just want to add to that. There's also a question which is relevant to our current piece of topic from Sijo Raju. It is said that subscription video on demand will be the prime driver of revenue in the Indian market. How do you perceive, and what are the chances of both the models coexisting? I think the answer, Karthik, that you have given is that it will coexist. I want to actually clarify that subscription for now, at least for the next 5 years, is not going to be the primary revenue driver. at an industry level. I'm not talking one player to the other at large. It'll still be dominated by advertisers. And I agree with you, Karthik, where we see ourselves going is having a set of subscribers before the paywall, then a certain 2 layers of subscription coming across. One is ad light and one is ad free. And what we are seeing even in the US markets is that when given an explicit choice, where subscription pricing is high, right? $7.99, $12.99 per month. Most subscribers are opting for watching the premium content supported by ads in a ad light environment rather than being completely ad free, because the cost to subscriber goes up dramatically. And even in a stable state, in an advanced market, we don't see that being more than 10%. So in an emerging market like India, for most definitely, it is not what could be the primary revenue driver. This actually brings me to This brings me to my next question, right? In terms of the type of content, one of the things that has been happening, and this is beyond sports, in entertainment, is there's a lot of premium content for adults that is coming across. I'm just talking at an overall industry level. And there is a strong S&P system that is in play. How does the brand safe advertising norm start to kick in for you, especially when you're looking at programmatic advertising now? There is a UGC content framework, which is very different. How do we build a framework for premium content?
That's a great question. I think navigating those, brand safety lines are very, very critical for brands, right? With different, and if you look at it, different brands have different appetite for risk, right? So one of the things that GroupM at large, right, be it global and in India, we follow is that we have a risk assessment framework that we build for a client. When media investments are being made, we periodically go and talk about these risk assessments to the client and say, hey, listen, here are the list of investments that you're looking at, and here is what here is exactly where you might have potential risk, where you might end up having slightly non-brand, it's not, I won't call it non-brand safe. It's about here is the content, do you want to associate here or not, right? So it's completely the brand's decision how to check. There are companies, there are brands who are actually have very low risk. We're saying, okay, absolutely, I know that these are paid users. I do want to be here and I want to communicate to them because I see a lot of relevance talking to them at this point in time. There are some brands who are extremely feel that this is a very big risk for their brand, and they feel that, okay, I might give it a pass, and that's absolutely fine. Point is that we always go and talk to the clients about the risk assessment metrics and make sure that the investments that are made are sensitized and they actually kind of value that and are aware that they are actually investing given whatever risks that's involved. So that's one way that we kind of look at it when there is content that we kind of have tiered way of how to look at companies.
Okay, and in terms of and I'm going to ask you a sticky question and put you on a spot. On one hand, you have this standard digital ecosystem that has been created where there is the race to the bottom of CPM, right? Because you want to go into auction and you want to get the lowest rate possible, whereas the premium OTT players are actually fighting for their fair share of returns on the premium content investment that is being made. And these are right now at two different ends of the stick. How do you propose that this, the play in tech, the play in logged in users, the play in the first party, a premium platform actually invests in a very strong, robust ecosystem, is going to be able to play a role, or maybe other factors that will play a role in actually bringing, truly delivering value, not just to, I'm being very candid, not just to one party, but to both parties. Because the reality is, to produce a 32 camera sports event or a 32 camera Big Boss it costs crores of rupees, right? And it may be 1 hour of content a day, but the amount of machinery that's going behind it, and that can't compete in an auction at 20 rupees or 30 rupees.
No, absolutely. So I think there are two ways to look at it. One being, so one of the things that is actually happening in a market that I don't know if people are taking cognizance is that um, advertising itself, or let's say the digital advertising itself, is going to a lot of transformation, right? So there are a lot of players and pretty big players have taken key decisions that might actually look at um, having a lot of effect on the investments that are made by brands. This at the back of identities, or this at the back of OTT platforms, or first party signed in users, right? Or first party signed in paying users, right? The way I put it, there are two layers to that, right? This really helps in creating a dynamic ecosystem that is outside of all the changes that are happening, which is predominantly centered and accent towards the identity piece, right? So if you look at an independent ecosystem, there are the backbone of that really sits with the identity of the user. So user actually consenting that, what, I'm giving you my identity, I'm the user, this is my phone number, my email address, I'm actually coming here to watch your content, and I'm okay to kind of have advertising along with that, gets a great is a very powerful thing to happen for a publisher, right? Likewise, uh, when a brand comes to look at advertising, they come to us and saying, hey, listen, what, I have a lot of first party data, and I want to find them outside, and I want to figure out how things can be worked out, right? So for matching to happen, right, for the addressability to happen, there is always a verified audience sitting at one level versus where I'm able to accurately match in a privacy compliant way onto for a brand onto a platform like yours, is going to really help unlock a lot of opportunities, right? So those are, so one, getting that piece right is very, very important. Having the tech and having the users who are actually signed in, and they actually contributing to support the ad funded free web, which is if once you're authenticating it, it's for free, right? You are able to identify the user's behavior in most aspects of it. You're also trying to deliver an experience in a very broadcast quality content way, right? When he's actually laid back and consuming content, is the best opportunity a brand can get, right? I'm not, obviously, most the pricing from a pricing conversation standpoint, there will always be a competitive environment, because the brand's always going to come and ask for ROI, right? I mean, I don't think there is a magic bullet today to say, what, we're going to increase the price, or the brands are going to accept it. So that equilibrium will always need to kind of come in. Having said that, with the alternative in place, there is always a better way of managing pricing. There is a better way of reaching out to the customers, and there's a better way of actually communicating in an environment that a brand really wants to speak to the consumer. So in that moment, I think at the back of identity, at the back of subscription users, there is that environment that can be created. Obviously, as an agency, we actually take cognizance of that, help with you guys to build that alternative structure. That is point number one. Point number two is the short to medium term efforts that we've been working on, Chanpreet, is on the header bidding solution, right? Today, which can actually solve for wastage, which can actually solve for having the right kind of audience reached at the right price, yet having very minimal loss for a partner like you, right? So I think from short to midterm, we have the solution in place, and in the longer term, we will kind of work with various stakeholders to have that identity narrative established. And I think that will happen at the back of people who have subscribed, people who have actually logged in, which mitigates a lot of risks for the brand, and obviously compensation will work around it. So that's where I see this piece evolve.
On a very selfish note, for me, ideally, it would be if the narrative changes to identity and environment, because otherwise we have just reduced it down to a user. But, Karthik consuming a piece of content in a premium news publication vis-a-vis, being and consuming UGC content vis-a-vis, logging into a paid OTT platform and consuming a piece of content. Isn't the environment also relevant? I think that's going to be our big continuous fight, because otherwise we'll again be back to the video is not video conversation. But for that, Karthik, very honestly, I think defining a new language of measurement is also important. And when I look at it from a content, and I'm just for a second stepping away from the current flow and say, I've often had clients come to me and said, okay, there is a brand integration, the point that you made initially. Can you tell me how does this compare to my 30-second views? And I'm like, okay, I don't know. How should I answer that? So we've actually created a new metric now. We've said these are the 30-second views. This is on ads. Now compare ads to ads. Please don't compare it to content. Let's compare on a premium platform like ours and like a social media platform. The watch time, Karthik, is 55 minutes. The average watch time, and this is one of the highest in the industry. And the completion rate of a piece of content is about 52% on an average. For some of our best shows, the one that's currently just taken off, Khatron Ke Khiladi and Big Boss OTT are hitting 80% completion rates. That's got to count for something. When you associate with a piece of content, when you associate with them not just as advertisers but and content creators. And I'm really hoping that the trend that has started now with this massive growth in digital entertainment consumption, that advertisers such as yours, and I want to know whether it is happening for you at large scale, your clients are moving away from looking at internet only as a performance medium to actually looking at it for intent creation as well. Is that starting to happen at a large scale, or that's still very niche?
No, I think digital. So I mean, there are different definitions around, and I would still reserve, the comment from GroupM standpoint, because there are two things to it. One is it is always subjective to the brand that you're associating with, because the brand defines what they want to do, right? But the intent from our side is always to look at using platforms to create awareness, right? And then obviously a set of measurement that always kicks in, right, to kind of assess whether the investment has actually reaped a benefit, right? It's again a ROI conversation for the investment that the brand makes to what they receive in return. Digital kind of accelerated that process, but doesn't mean that we need to stop. I feel that it has to kind of start from awareness and see whether if you're able to measure it back. And to answer your question on the branded content integration, I think sponsorships do a lot of trick there, right? We've worked on a lot of sponsorships which kind of look at those elements that kind of cover for it, and it has actually worked in favor for both the brand as well as for you guys. So I think those are areas where the equilibrium is set, and we feel that there is a lot more to come in to see how that's going to.
There are two questions up since a while. I'm just going to address them. Here's a question from Dhwani Gandhi. What are the avenues through which the platforms look to drive ROI with high-scale production costs and investments? So I think the question is clearly to me, but I'm just going to answer that it is largely from three kinds of partnerships. One is our direct loyalty and investment in relationship with our subscribers and viewers. There are two types of viewers, right? One who reward us with their attention is the way we look at it, and their time and loyalty. And the third And the second aspect is that they give us their time, loyalty, and as well their money. So that's where, in the first model, we also have deeper relationship with our advertisers. And in the second model, like we have been talking about, it's subscriber money, subscriber subscription money, as well as advertising. Now in advertising as well, there are two aspects. One is having brand integrations at the core content level. And then the second is to have bespoke branded content, and third is to have inventory play. But when we look at it, and Karthik, you and our teams have been doing this for a while, it is about solving a problem for, like, our intent is to entertain our consumers. Our intent is to solve the problem of the advertising partners we work with in terms of whether it's reach, building desire, building awareness. That's where we go. There is another question, Karthik, from Sonali Tiwari. What are the key drivers of OTT growth, especially since the past year when entertainment at home was the only option? I wish it was
back
so
to you.
good. I wish it was so good. You know, it actually reminds me of the days when we were in school, or maybe some of our audience members weren't born yet. Ramayana was the only thing that happened, right? On Sunday, 9 a.m., or I don't know what slot it was, but that's the only thing that happened. No, I think one of the penny drop moments for us was that, you know, there was a time when we were growing up that the newspaper front page was where everything happened at 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. in the morning, or then the television prime time came. And now in the digital universe, it has just simply exploded, right? An OTT premium entertainment player is competing with television, is competing with a gaming platform, is competing with UGC, is competing with a social media platform all around. The only thing that has worked for us as OTT industry, premium OTT industry, is our investment in content, and is our investment in technology. I don't think there is. I think the one thing that has shown us is the good quality content and entertainment is all that matters. Whether it's sports, movies, television, or reality, it's the same content. It's the delivery that has changed. From linear to VOD is where the big explosion has happened. And because it's VOD and because it's age gated and personalized, we have been able to actually reach every person rather than thinking of 66% households in India. And that's where the boom has happened, right? And Karthik, maybe you can chip in here, because one of the things that fascinates me most is that with 91% tele-density, your ability to reach an individual consumer in their context through programmatic is where the big potential lies. So if you can shed some more light about it as to how your whole perspective on digital advertising has changed vis-a-vis traditional for GroupM, that would be great for the audience.
Yeah, so I think if you look at a lot of narratives that have been discussed today is on the incrementality and your ability to actually measure and close loop, right? And that's where mostly the investments are trending as we are able to see, right? So one is from a traditional environment, the way it is being consumed is completely changing, like Chanpreet had mentioned about. Then you're able to look at okay, so I've kind of really reached this particular area. Now can I start looking and narrowing it down to the kind of TG that we want to kind of reach out? Where if I have to call a parallel, then Finecast is an example, right? So you have a traditional TV advertising that is getting aired, and there is a addressable TV, which is Finecast, which is pure play on connected TV on large device,
Yes.
a household kind of a solution that is coming in, and then you're able to actually reach out to specific set of audience that you want to talk to, and then look at bringing in a lot more personalized communication, and you're able to actually talk to the kind of audience that you want to reach to. So these are kind of the way we are able to look at it. And then digital obviously helps in closing the loop, and brands are using various strategies to kind of either interact, hear back, or look at driving traffic onto different platforms which can close the loops. These are like multiple areas that we can definitely at least we are seeing as trend.
There is a question to you. One more question to you, Karthik. How are you seeing digital marketing in terms of medical equipment and healthcare facilities? I'm not sure. This definitely, I'm glad it's for you. So.
Definitely happy to. I mean, that's another area of interest of mine that I keep tabs on. I think there is a lot of work from a maturity standpoint is happening. One, when we generally talk about advertising in a privacy compliant way, talking and addressing somebody at a with a healthcare kind of a narrative gets in a lot more restrictions from various other bodies kind of kicking in. So this in sense is getting built out. I don't say that we have a robust solution that is there. You obviously have duopoly which can do some kind of work, but layering it at I cannot go beyond a certain level to look at the user. Second, the organizations who want to actually target and put out their information cannot look at using technologies that are currently used in the regular advertising space. So here is the actual privacy compliant ways of addressing to them comes in. Second is contextual, where if I'm actually going out to read or consume some kind of content, contextual placements can really help in. So these are two areas where digital marketing can look at medical equipment and facility and place. Second is the B2B angle, right? So in this, mostly it is an account-based marketing. If it's a large scale advertiser who's actually wanting to talk to these players, and vice versa. So these are two angles to look at it, but ideally privacy is again at the center of it, and it will continue to be playing a very vital role in at least medical and health tech space.
Thank you. And I have one last question from my side, and then we wrap up.
I'm scared now.
Yeah, you should be. Okay, this is my favorite question. I always believe culture drives business, and not the other way around at all. And in terms of culture, have you noticed any difference when you are advertising either across platforms or either across instruments type as at an overall level, or have you noticed any tonality difference that has started to work in your messaging? Because to be fair, brands are one of the largest content creators, right? And they work with platforms across the world. Has there been a tonality shift, not just because it's pandemic and not just because you need to be empathetic, but overall in the way they are messaging or the platforms they are using or the formats that they are using because of change of consumer behavior? If there's anything that pops out, it'd be great for our audiences to know.
So one thing that has definitely happened is the way video has taken up. I think I would go back and put the emphasis back on video as a creative. I'm sure guys who have logged in would know about the way you can actually create a tons of dynamic creatives to set to different contexts.
Yes,
that has actually picked up a lot of momentum, and there is a lot of work from tech as well as from brand standpoint that is happening, and hyper localizing that kind of communication to different platforms, tailoring it back onto which can adopt into different channels is something that is definitely a trend that I can definitely see. And I see that, and I feel that that's the right way to go about it, because it's not just English as the medium that you want to communicate with. The Bharat is sitting out there, and there are a lot of receptivity when you actually speak in your own native language, right? So I think that way brands are taking cognizance of that and taking help from technology to run it across different platforms and channels that they want to be in. I feel that will continue to progress, and it'll have a lot of structuring on maturity, because there'll be a lot of measurements that will come in. They will see a lot more receptiveness or communication that they will take it up from there once it has been well received. So those are a couple of areas that I feel the content, and especially video as channel and native language as a piece or layering on top of video will see a lot of growth in my opinion.
Thank you so much for that. It's been fantastic chatting with you. And, my takeaways also are that video first in native language and personalized entertainment, along with personalized ads service in a fashion that respects both our viewers as well as our advertisers, is the way to go forward. And I definitely see from our point of view that there is a need to nudge the ecosystem for probably coming up with a new grammar for measurement and a new grammar for actually giving value to the environment in which we serve ads and engage with users as well, which can be beneficial to all parties involved. But thank you so much, Karthik. It's been fantastic having you here.
Thanks, Chanpreet. Likewise, and thank you guys for attending in.
Thank you.
Thanks, Social Samosa, for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chanpreet. Thank you so much, Karthik, for that great fireside chat. You definitely had the momentum on your side because there were so many audience questions coming in, which just shows that there was a lot of engagement in the session, and the viewers were definitely seeking for more insights from both of you. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, to all the existing viewers who've just joined us now, we'd once again like to welcome you all to the finale of the first season of Voot presents India's Best Marketeers and Planners by Social Samosa. We'd also like to thank our title sponsor, Voot, and gifting partner, Welcome, a curator of everything healthy food and snacking. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time, the moment we've been waiting for, which has now arrived. Well, hold on to your seats as we begin, ladies and gentlemen, with the winner announcement. To announce the winners of our first category, I would like to re-invite on our virtual stage Chanpreet Arora, Business Head, Voot, AVOD, Viacom 18 Digital Ventures, to announce the winners of our India's Best Marketeers and Planners Thought Leaders category. So Chanpreet, welcome. It is now time. The much awaited moment has arrived wherein we announce the winners. And the first up category we've invited you for is the Thought Leaders category. So let's get that started. Could we have the preset being rolled out so that we can have the winners being announced? Let's have a look at who the winners are. So ladies and gentlemen, as you can see on your screen, Chanpreet, would you like to do the honors of announcing the winners?
Sure. I'm sorry. I'll have to see the screen to be able to do that.
We could do it together if you'd like, definitely.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
All right. So the Thought Leaders category powered by Voot, ladies and gentlemen, let's go on and see who the winners are. First up on your screen, congratulations, Chandramohan Mehra, Chief Marketing Officer, Bajaj Alliance Life Insurance and Bajaj Alliance General Insurance. Well, heartiest congratulations. Let's get the applause out there. Chanpreet, would you like to announce the next winner right on the screen?
Yes, absolutely. And the second winner is Vineet Singh, Group CMO, Embassy Group, We Work India. Heartiest congratulations. It's so well deserved. It's a brand I personally love as well.
Absolutely.
Third winner in the Thought Leadership category is Sonal Mishra, Associate VP Marketing, Unacademy. Heartiest congratulations. And we also have Anisha Verma, General Manager, PhD Media, part of Omnicom Media Group. Congratulations again. It's good to see such a healthy balance of all genders representation. And congratulations, Mahadev Srivastava, VP Marketing and Brand Strategy, practically. That is congratulations, so well deserved. Congratulations, Piali Dasgupta, Senior VP Marketing, Columbia Pacific Communities. Congratulations.
Lovely. So, wow. Firstly, congratulations.
Yeah.
all the winners. Chanpreet, they were all the winners in our Thought Leaders category, which was powered by Voot. Once again, I'd really like to humbly thank you for your time. It's definitely indeed been thrilling having you join us on the virtual stage was definitely a pleasure, and thank you for your valuable time.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me here. And congratulations again to all the winners. I know how much hard work it takes to get that one photograph up there, the hours of toil. Really happy for everybody. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chanpreet. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is all happening at the Best Marketeers and Planners event. And let's move on to our next category. Thank you so much, Chanpreet, for your valuable time. So, ladies and gentlemen, with this, I'd now like to present the next category for the day, On the Rise at India's Best Marketeers and Planners. And let's have a look at who the winners are. So, ladies and gentlemen, On the Rise, and the first winner in this category is Akhila Shankar, Director, Brand and Communications, Geo7. Congratulations, Akhila, on that incredible win. Let's find out who the next winner is in this category. And it is Ankita Khatri, Media Director, Avis Media. Congratulations, Ankita, on that wonderful win. Let's move on and find out the next winner. It is Jobin Jose, the Associate Group Head, Interactive Avenues. Congratulations, Jobin, on that incredible win. Moving on, we've got the next winner being Caesar Credo, Senior Manager, Media Planning, iProspect. Congratulations, Caesar. And next, let's find out who's the next winner. We've got Bhavya Shah, Business Director, Wavemaker, India. Congratulations, Bhavya, on this wonderful win. Let's find out who's the final winner in this category. It is Milan Modi, Account Director, Digital Marketing, Madison World. Well, ladies and gentlemen, can you feel the excitement, guys? Because we truly can, and keep those tweets coming. Well, moving on to our next category for the day, Ace Performer at India's Best Marketers and Planners, powered by Voot. Let's have a look at who the winners are. Well, we first up got Bhavna Sharma, Digital Marketing Lead, Realme India. Congratulations, Bhavna, on that incredible win. Let's find out who's the next winner. It is Antariksh Chopra, Manager, Digital, EY. Congratulations, Antariksh, on that wonderful win. Let's find out who's the next winner in this category. It is Chirag Chandiramani, AVP Planning and Strategy, Merkel Sokrati. Congratulations, Chirag, on this win. Let's find out who's the next winner. Ambika Mehrotra, Director, Zenith. Congratulations, Ambika, on this win. Let's find out who's the next winner in this category. It is Vijay Chauhan, Senior Media Director, DC WebWise. Congratulations, Vijay, on that win. Let's find out who's the next one. Yes, it is Tithas Jana, Associate Vice President, Havis Media. Congratulations on this win. Let's find out the next winner in this category. It is Ashish Chandok, Associate VP, Client Success, LogicServe Digital. Congratulations, Ashish, on that win. And let's find out the next winner, which is Shankar Narayan Subramaniam, Product Marketing Manager, ASUS India. Well, congratulations to all the winners in this category. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope the tweets are all coming, and do feel the excitement and keep hashtagging us as we move on to the next category for the day, Growth Driver at India's Best Marketeers and Planners, powered by Voot. Let's find out the first winner. It is Nida Naushad, Head of Brand Cast24 Services Private Limited. Congratulations, Nida. Moving on, let's find out. It is Deepal Modi, Senior Marketing Manager, ICICI Prudential Life Insurance. Congratulations, Deepal. Let's find out who's the next winner. Ladies and gentlemen, Akhil Sethi, Lead Digital Marketing, Panasonic India. Congratulations, Akhil. Let's move on and find out the next winner. Yes, it is Chirag Joshi, Chief Marketing Officer at Samco Group. Congratulations, Chirag, on that wonderful win. Let's move on and find out the next winner. It is Prashant Shah, Senior Business Director, Social Media and Influencer Marketing at Mediacom. Congratulations, Prashant. And coming up on the screen now is Dheeraj Khanna, Senior Partner, Client Lead, DDP Mudra. Congratulations, Dheeraj, on that win. We've got now Manjot Juyal, Head of Media, Quora. Congratulations as a winner. And the final winner in this category, it is Aditya D'Souza, Manager Planning and Buying, Publici. Congratulations to these all wonderful winners. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to the next category for the day, which is the disruptor at India's Best Marketeers and Planners, powered by Voot. Let's find out who the winners are. First up, we've got Steffi D'Souza, Media Manager, Volkswagen India. Congratulations, Steffi, on that win. We've got Anushri Menon, Segment and Content Marketing Lead, WeEye Business. Congratulations, Anushri. Next up, as a winner, it is Shruti Tyagi, Brand and Marketing Lead, Discovery Communications India. Congratulations, Shruti. Next up, we've got Kavya Hegde, Director, Creative Partnerships, MX Player. Congratulations, Kavya, on that wonderful win. Joining us is next as the winner is Varun Tiwari, Digital Marketing Lead, Reebok EM. Congratulations, Varun, on this win. Let's find out the next winner. It is Vivek Loganathan, AVP, Paid Media and Programmatic Social Beat. Congratulations, Vivek, on that win. And let's find out the next winner. It is Amisha Gulati, Vice President, Integrated Solutions, Shebang. Well, what a wonderful, wonderful win it has been for all our leaders out here who've given us so much of, who've done so much of hard work. And ladies and gentlemen, with this, we'd like to conclude the first edition of Voot Presents India's Best Marketeers and Planners by Social Samosa. Once again, we'd like to extend a deep gratitude to our title sponsor, Voot, and our gifting partner, Welcome, a curator of everything healthy food and snacking. Once again, a big thank you to all of you who've been a part of this. Each one of you have made this happen. And before we head out, a big shout out to the team Social Samosa. Congratulations to the first season and raising a toast to many more to come. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with this, it is me, Bhavna Bhatia, on behalf of Social Samosa, signing off for the day. We hope you all had a great time. Thank you all for viewing and tuning in. Congratulations once again to all the winners.